So we have breaking news in the Brian Koberger case. Not the Brian Koberger. The Charlie Kirk murder case. I don't know why that popped up in my head, I guess. Donald Trump just confirmed, or with a high degree of certainty, that they have the suspect in custody. There'll be a press conference coming up here in a few minutes. Here's Donald J. just a few minutes ago on Fox and Friends.
Back to his hometown in Arizona. And you said you were going to award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is very nice of you. Any updates on the suspect?
Yeah. Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued and we all don't get sued and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant. That was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, it's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But yeah, I think we're in great shape.
Yes, hopefully we are in great shape on that. There should be starting in about 5 minutes, the press conference in Utah, FBI, Utah governor, and all those will be there. There was new footage that came out it was put on, I believe, by TMZ through Fox News. It was absolutely stunning of what we saw there. Here, let's see if we can get it. Here's the Fox News report of the suspect or presumed suspect in the Charlie Kirk murder jumping off the roof into and fleeing the scene. Let's see if this will play.
Shoes, he's got the hat low. I think he's trying to avoid being on camera because everybody knows these days you're on camera. So I think it really argues he did a lot of recon. I wouldn't be surprised if they get video going backwards of him reconning the area a week before or something. And I think one thing I would say is, you know, again, it took 5 days to get Mangione, and even that's pretty quick. So they're going to get there. We're still within the penumbra of the 48 hours that everybody talks about, but that's an artificial deadline. They're going to get him.
The video, but we don't release all of the video. So just because TMZ has it doesn't mean that the Bureau didn't have it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they put out a call for tips all over the place to say, look, if you got something, bring it forward. From what I understand, having heard a couple of the interviews, sounds like this developed a little bit later in the investigation yesterday. And TMZ was probably positioned, I'm just going to tell people how, you know, this works sometimes. They pay. All right. I don't think I'm telling anybody anything that they don't know. They can buy the video. And if somebody's saying, all right, it's going to go to the FBI eventually, but before it does, I'm going to, you know, make some money on it. And I'm not putting any pejorative on that. That's just how these things work. So now, look, the important thing is, from what I see, is TMZ got it right out. And I very much hope that they coordinated with the authorities here in doing that. But that said, this develops in investigations. You could have 200 guys working on a case, and then all of a sudden something pops up from.
So what you appear to have is some video shot where the suspect in the Charlie Kirk shooting is jumping off the roof, leaving the facility, and then him walking through the neighborhood, allegedly, in Orem, Utah, with a limp, which would be consistent if you jumped off the roof, you know, 10, 12, 15, 20 feet of that. Where he's walking down the stairs, though, are the pictures of that. is kind of unusual. Maybe that was a different person. Who knows? We'll find out here in a few minutes. We are slated here in a couple minutes to get an FBI update. But as you heard President Trump say at the on Fox and Friends, with a high degree of certainty, he was on live about an hour ago. With a high degree of certainty, he said, "We believe we have the suspect in custody." So
Body back to his hometown.
it will be very interesting if we see that. Let's play Trump again. Hopefully.
Watching that,
Yeah.
JD Vance was supposed to be with you. He went out to be with Charlie Kirk's family and to get the body back to his hometown in Arizona. And you said you were going to award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which
That's
is
right.
very nice of you. Any updates on this suspect?
Yeah. Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued and we all don't get sued and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him
Right
in
now.
custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor, everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant. That was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, it's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But yeah, I think we're in great shape.
Mr.
And
President,
he's in custody.
your suspicion was that he was radical left, and now you have more information. What can you share with us about his ideology?
Yeah, Lawrence, let me and by the way, Lawrence is doing a good job. What's going on here?
Yeah, Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
I said you were going to do well. But yeah, I think that I don't want to go too far. I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever, I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. But somebody close to him turned him, you know, they said, whoa, it's interesting. We had very good pictures, but not great, not perfect. And when you look at it, what happened is somebody, and this happens a lot. It happened with the crazy Boston bomber. It happened with others. Somebody that.
So we have more information. It appears Trump, or the Fox News said it appears to be a left-wing person. Trump didn't deny that. He didn't necessarily confirm it. So I guess hopefully we will find out more on this when the press conference slated to begin now, which it's not, which slated to begin a half hour ago, and now it is not again. So let's finish up on the Fox News report here in a second. Here we go.
Somebody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father, went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you based on what I'm hearing. They'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in. As I'm walking in, they said, looking real good. They have the person that they wanted. So you have breaking news, don't you? Huh?
Thank
you
you.
always have breaking news, Ainsley.
Right.
Sean's going to be very disappointed that we're not doing it on his show.
He'll be very thankful
Right.
and appreciative of the
I think
police
so.
officers that got this guy.
They did a great job, everybody. And everybody worked together. Pam Bondi is incredible, by the way. She's people don't know what a star she is. She's incredible. And it all worked out.
Could I ask you just some clarification? So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And so I understand it. And again, subject to change. But, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those.
So there's an update that we got about an hour before on Fox and Friends from none other than the authority of Donald J. Trump. Some of the very interesting parts. Family member turned him in, pastor, I believe, was involved. His dad was finally, seems like, able to convince him that, yeah, you need to turn yourself in. The jig is up, as they say. And here we are. We should be getting a press conference here very soon from the FBI and or Utah officials. I'm sure the governor will be there. He's usually led these things. There's some new footage, again, of him jumping off the roof that we hadn't, or at least I hadn't previously seen. And it's very, let's say, telling, and probably explains why he may have the limp in that TMZ portion of it, where he's where it looks like it appears or allegedly is walking down the street in the neighborhood in Orem, Utah on this. It's pretty fantastic that they were able to locate this guy after hiding that much. So apparently he was in St. George, Utah, which is, let's say, what, about 2-3 hours from Orem, Salt Lake area where he was found, or supposedly, allegedly, as they say, in custody. But it was some pretty interesting footage that they had. See if we can roll that up for you here in a second. Like I said, we're getting all this stuff live in a living color. As they say, yeah, here's some of the footage from on the case. There you see him on the roof. It looks almost 2 stories, so that's probably, even his legs are probably 10 to 12 feet. And he hits the ground. You can see he's kind of running there. You can see him wince with that leg, but you know, adrenaline can kick in a little bit before you get the limp or the pain. But you see him as he's coming off the roof, hits the ground, at least a person, possibly the suspect, the Charlie Kirk shooting, and he's running away from the rooftop area, as you see. Let's try to replay that and pull it up on the big screen so you get a better sense of it. Let's see. There you see the photos that we've seen before. And there you see the roof. There you see him hanging again from that. And we get the applicable ads roll in. But you see him jump off the roof. Elise's feet are 10 to 12 feet above the ground when he lets go and falls off the roof. There you see it again. You see another person walking to the left. So this is before, and this is consistent with what the construction workers said. He was the first one that asked them to go through the area they were at or had barricaded off. And he told them that there was a shooting, he's trying to get away. And then they said later on, 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds a minute, more people started coming through asking to go through that area. But he was allegedly the first one through on that area. That's absolutely some cool footage. And like the TMC footage that shows him limping across the neighborhood there in Warren, Utah. But what we do know at this time, that President Trump has confirmed that the shooter, with a high degree of certainty, the shooter was in custody or is in custody. The Fox News reporter or anchor said it appears to be a left-wing person. Trump didn't deny that. He kind of skirted around that, kind of non-denial denial, as they say, if you want to take an old Watergate phrase. And he said, you'll get more at the press conference, but this is what we know today. So again, it will be very interesting to see what details we're going to get, hopefully here in a few minutes, as they're usually late. 45 minutes, they're supposed to run the press conference, obviously, at 6 o'clock. Now it's 6:45, and we're still waiting, as they say, patiently for the press conference to begin in Orem, Utah, at the site of the Charlie Kirk assassination. But as you see there, I don't know how if someone gave President Trump misinformation or the wrong information or something, somebody, I would hate to be that person. Now, you would think, since Trump has went as far as he could without actually confirming it, but saying with a high degree of certainty, you would think they would roll the press conference out. That's why we figured when he said this a little over an hour ago, and then they said the press conference is coming at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. West Coast time, 9 a.m. Eastern, which was 45 minutes ago. You would figure they would have this stuff out and ready to go. But the fact that they're not is quite telling. Let's check in and see what Fox and Friends has to say.
Reportedly, if in fact that is the gun that was leaked, that there was engravings on that or on the shells. We've heard that reporting, very similar to Mangione. Well, that's going to go to potentially the motive here. You don't need that for trial, but it helps. And that'll get you potentially to groups that are like-minded. And I only mention all of that because I want to name check the case that we had a couple of months ago when a guy blew up a fertility clinic out in California. That's the story that made news. Everybody forgot about it because he died. Well, the investigators kept going. And through that forensics, they got a second piece who was involved with him online and made a subsequent arrest of somebody else. So we don't know where this is going forward yet. I don't know that they'll tell us that at the press conference, but I would say that there's the possibility there's another shoe to drop here.
Okay, two things I want to get to here, Paul. Some reporting suggesting that his father was in law enforcement, or that's either how he made his living or that's how he had a career. Let me come back to that in a moment. Do you know why we have had the delay here on the press conference?
I do not. No, I do not. They are probably going over very much the issues that you and I and Dana are talking about right now, that all of us are talking about on the air. At this point, whether you like it or not, you got to start talking to the lawyers. All right. You got to import them. I hope they have a U.S. attorney involved here and a local attorney as well, so that they can lawyer what they talk about now. You want to be as fulsome and transparent with the public as you can be. Kesh Patel, I think, has been very clearly leaning into that. But as I said earlier, right now, you got to think prosecution. So I have a feeling they're going over what we can say, what we should say, and what we should hold back.
Okay, and if it is true that the father is in law enforcement, that could be a very...
And maybe we can find out a little bit about what you think is the holdup here on this press conference.
Yeah, we're wondering what the holdup is too. This was supposed to be at 9 o'clock, but obviously everybody wants to get every bit of information in a row before they come out in front of the cameras to make sure that everything is completely sealed tight here as far as information is concerned. So I suspect that we will learn the name, which is a name that we've heard from 3 law enforcement sources that are talking to Jackie Heinrich and myself. Tyler Robinson, who's from Utah. We don't have any other details about Tyler Robinson at this point, other than just to say that name is the name that we're being told by these people being briefed on this investigation. We do know also that the death penalty is on the table because President Trump, not only because President Trump mentioned that it would be on the table, but it is now part of the scenario, part of the equation, because Attorney General Pam Bondi brought it back under the Bondi Justice Department. So the federal death penalty is on the table. You see someone there doing what looks to be a mic check. We're not sure if he's saying maybe a 2-minute warning or a 5-minute warning. So we'll see there. But it's important to note that this suspect, out of my skis and try to predict what those charges would be, but there is a possibility that we would see that. It is noticeable, notable, I should say, that the authorities are coming out and speaking many hours.
So we're getting the
Hours after drive, as you've been talking about with Paul. So really a lot to learn here, and we hope to learn just as much from authorities as they come out and explain how this all went down, and perhaps maybe they have some sort of confession or some sort of inkling into why somebody would do this. But as of now, we have to call him a suspect, and that's really all we can do at this point. Back to you.
David, thank you. Let's
Thank you.
not get too far away from the humanity of the moment.
yes, let's, in some respects,
Yep.
And really what America's...
we do have, and a lot of people will speculate, hopefully we'll get some more clarity when the FBI and Utah officials give us the update on the press conference. But we're extremely, this incident has touched the hearts of so many people. Charlie Kirk was an iconic figure. And it was amazing what he did in his 31 years of life. And when he was on with Gavin Newsom on one of Gavin Newsom's ill-fated 937 podcasts that have failed, But he said their goal from 2020 coming back, hopefully to get President Trump elected, which he did in 2024. But in 2020 was to move the youth vote 10 points, center right Republican. They did it in less than 4 years, and Trump was elected. Trump was elected in a lot of the work Charlie Kirk did at the colleges, and the youth vote, let's say 18 to 29, and the Hispanic vote moved in the greatest percentage from Joe Biden in 2020 to Donald Trump in 2024. And especially the work in that 29 to 18 crowd, let's say the under 35 crowd, Charlie Kirk resonated with those across a lot of socioeconomic lines. You could be poor, you could be rich, you could be middle class, you could be from the hood, you could be from the burbs, you could be from the inner cities, you could be from Beverly Hills. You could be Gavin Newsom's 13-year-old son who adored Charlie Kirk. Who that cretin wouldn't even let him, when he was there at the interview with his dad, Newsom wouldn't even let him see Charlie Kirk. But that just goes to show you the impact that Charlie Kirk had. He was just one of those iconic once in a generation characters that was able to galvanize that. And he did it. He didn't do it by yelling at people or talking them down. Again, he had conversations like we should have, sitting down and back and forth. And when other people made a great point with him, he acknowledged that. And it got him to thinking too. Somebody that disagrees with you or has a different perspective, and that's what we need. Even though you may disagree with someone, their perspective is important. And it will make you think. I know that from personally, and that's why I love to have conversations or talk to people that have differing or opposing points of view, or even maybe the same but a different perspective on the subject. It makes you not only battle test your beliefs and the way you see something, but it hones you in on how to make your argument better and how do you communicate better. And one more important, maybe the most important thing, learn how to listen. Sometimes just shut your own trap and listen. We do that, and I know I could be the biggest violator of this. The one thing you do get with age, though, is you do learn to be able to shut your trap more and listen instead of thinking you know everything. Let's check in with Fox and Friends and see if they have any more updates on this.
Digest at home, rather. Here's the president when he described about 90 minutes ago his son Don Jr. talking about Charlie Kirk and really the impact and the significance of the life he built at a young age.
Well, Don said to me, he's sort of like a son to you. Charlie got involved like 11 years ago, I think. He started, he's a brilliant guy. He would have bigger rallies than any radical left speaker. And it was killing them because he'd have 5,000 people show up, 10,000 people show up. They'd go and they'd have 50 people, but they talk big league, right? Now, he was an unbelievable talent, but he was more, it wasn't really so much a talent. He just really believed it.
He had more to say on that we'll play in a moment here, but
Trump was right. Kirk was an unbelievable talent. And the legacy of Charlie Kirk, and like I said in some of the posts after the show, Charlie Kirk only dies if we let the movement, the legacy, the lessons he taught us, if we let them die. He continues to live if we take the ball that Charlie Kirk built and run with it. And one of the great things that even though, and no matter how big a personality or that can be our legacy too. And although you may not have the big claims to fame or such as a Charlie Kirk, that doesn't mean you can't play your role or you can't carry on that torch that Charlie lit. So hopefully they do have this suspect in custody, and this is the one who did it. We'll find out, hopefully, if that's the case, who that is, what it was all about. Hopefully that will bring a degree of closure to his wife and 2 young daughters, the family, and all of us. And again, like the 3 or 4 or 5,000 that showed up in Orem, Utah, and all across the country. He was here in the Inland Empire, where we're broadcasting from in California at UCR, University of California, Riverside. Big crowd. 2 or 3 months ago, he was here. But he bravely soldiered on, even though reports that we've had, and he was increasingly afraid. We're concerned about death threats and such. But he didn't let him deter him. And as he said, he was asked, well, what did he want to be remembered by? And he said his faith. And that must have kept him able to go at it as hard as he did for 31 years. Again, we're waiting for the press conference to start. Again, it's an hour later than it should be. President Trump, as you see there, getting close to 2 hours ago, said with a high degree of certainty they have the suspect that's been in the pictures in custody. There was a trio, I believe, of people, a family relative, a pastor, and then his dad, who eventually convinced him that the jig was up and he should turn himself in. I think that's the words the president used. And in this case, hopefully we will get, as they say, more answers than questions. Hopefully when this press conference comes, we will have that. Let's check in again with Fox and Friends, see what their updates are. Here we go.
Late yesterday afternoon into the evening, J.D. Vance, who was supposed to be in New York for 9/11, diverted his trip to Utah, and then he and his wife Usha accompanied just where a turning point was established. And Charlie Kirk, there was a clip of him saying how proud he was to have 1,000 employees, and I think we have much more impact with what we're doing now.
A true influencer moment here that you're watching of J.D. Vance helping to carry the casket was very moving, as was the moment when Usha Vance, the second lady, comes off of the plane yesterday, and you can see her with the widow there, Erica, with the long blonde hair, and they clasp hands and for strength and help her get down those stairs.
She's going to need a lot of that.
Oh my gosh, I
for
know.
a long, long time. Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent, former chief of counterintelligence on behavioral analysis program, and we spoke to you this week a couple of times. Welcome back, Robin.
Thank you.
Put two and two together in your own mind. What do you think we're about to hear from this press conference?
I think we're going to continue to hear the arc of what we've been hearing so far, and that is a really good investigation with an individual that left a lot of data points along the way that of explaining that now we're really going to focus on the proper investigation so we can have a good prosecution of him and have justice served. But what we're going to hear is that continuation of the next step of the justice system. And so thankfully, we are making progress. I think they've done a phenomenal job all over the spectrum on this with coordination and communication.
Okay, Robin. They have been, I would argue, meticulous in their strategy. And it may not have appeared to be that way to a lot of us in the viewing public. But they had a plan. And in my view, they sort of peeled it back like an onion. And they gave us a little bit, but they had a lot more behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your observation of how they communicated over the past 2 days?
It really is, Bill, especially last night when we're watching a press conference. They were originally going to come out with a presser earlier in the day. They delayed it. Kash Patel travels out. Dan Bongino travels out. And then they're present but don't speak. They don't take questions. The government doesn't. I found that presser to be very, very controlled, very articulate, very fluid. And to me, what happens a lot of times behind the scenes is they're going to communicate in terms not just for the public, but also for the shooter themselves. So I wouldn't put it past them because of the strategy they had in place to actually try to inspire some sort of action on behalf of the shooter or the people around the shooter. By the way,
for joining our coverage today, and stand by for more, okay? Because we hope to learn more momentarily, Dana. We've been pushed off about 51 minutes, but we do expect it to begin sometime.
That's been a quick 51 minutes. I had no idea what time it was until I looked up. I did want to mention one thing that I think a lot of parents are going through it now, but if you're a young person, listen to this here. And then we'll go to Paul Morrow. President Trump said he did not watch the shooting video. Listen to him here. Call 45. All right. Well, as they pull that up, the reason I mention this is because these investigations go so quickly, but the public gets to see a lot even before a press conference like this. So let's play President Trump here.
I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to remember Charlie that way. But yeah, it's horrific is what I hear. Just horrific. I hear that nobody can, I know friends that were there and they told me, they said, what we witnessed, the physical emotion of being there.
From a friend the other day whose teens were watching the video over and over, and absolutely unacceptable. But in terms of a friend, meaning that he didn't want his children to have that on their minds. And there used to be videos like this that would sort of go out there in a conspiratorial way, but now they're in everyone's phones. President Trump did not watch the video, and I think that he would agree. I'm wondering what you think from an investigatory standpoint of getting these off the internet.
You know, you can try, but at this point, that's all over the place, and you're never going to pull that back entirely. What you do in law enforcement in an investigative sense is if you get a hold of this sort of stuff before the public's aware of it writ large, before everybody knows about it, you can get a takedown order and things like that where you can pull it off because you're trying to
Please
preserve
subscribe my
evidence for
YouTube
various
channel
reasons
for
and you
live
don't
daily
want the
news.
public to
Please
know about it.
subscribe
But
my
with
YouTube
this
channel
one,
for
this
watching
ship
live daily
careful to
news.
say,
Please
you know, I
subscribe
watched the
my
video
YouTube channel
over
for
Vaughn,
watching everyday
engineer on the way
new
down
news.
to Florida to cover the Ryan. And I didn't know about this till I hit the ground. I saw some reporting. I was incredulous. I clicked on something and then I saw the entire video and I said to myself, once is enough. And, you know, look, if you are a parent, I don't see any reason why you have to risk desensitizing your children to seeing that video over and over. And one of the things I often bring up when we are talking about this kind of an issue is, can you imagine, Dana, what the video would have looked like if the Butler shooter had been slightly more accurate, a video that would have been beamed around the world? Thank God that went the way it went. And poor Charlie Kirk for it having gone the way it went here.
No doubt. You know, with technology, Paul, when you're on a certain app or you're on your computer and
Do it by
yeah,
accident.
and 100%, 100%, even though you try to avoid it. Okay, so
Yeah.
we've been given a 4-minute warning 2 minutes ago, so we're a couple minutes away from this beginning. We will hear from the governor, Spencer Cox. He's been at just about every one of these hearings and tends to lead it too.
Show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. I know there has been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital OWO, what's this question mark?" Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." We are indebted to law enforcement across the state who has worked seamlessly together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and our federal partners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're grateful for everyone who worked together in such a short amount of time to find this person and to bring justice. I want to thank the public who has been so engaged, reviewing videos, helping us with sending in tips, and helping us get to this point. I want to thank the family members of Tyler Robinson who did the right thing in this case and were able to bring him into to law enforcement as well. I especially want to thank the family of Charlie Kirk, Erica, Charlie's parents, his children. I want us to be thinking of them as we bring justice in this case. They will be involved in that justice. We will be working very closely with them as we move through this process as well. This is a very sad day for our country, a terrible day for the state of Utah. But I'm grateful that at this moment we have an opportunity to bring closure to this very dark chapter in our nation's history. With that, I will now turn the microphone over to the Director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Thank you, Governor. This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. In 33 hours, we have made historic progress for Charlie. Governor Cox, our partnership has been absolutely incredible these last few days. Our partnership will endure. Your state and local partners, your sheriffs, your DPS community has been unbelievably impressive in the hardest of times. And a case like this cannot be solved, cannot be brought without partnering with your state and local authorities. The FBI has a certain role to play, and we will play that role, and we will lead out for the federal government. But Governor Cox, we are so grateful for your state partnership that led out on this investigation. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilize these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11. Then, shortly thereafter, the FBI reward of $100,000 was released at 10:45 a.m. local. Myself and Deputy Director Bongino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11. The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m., where at my direction, the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect. And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise, thanks to the full weight of the federal government and leading out with the partners here in the state of Utah and Governor Cox, the suspect was apprehended in a historic time period. And I want to highlight what Governor Cox said. This would not have been possible without you, the media, and you, the public. That's why we went so public, so fast, and we're so transparent, and we're committed to that transparency. The crime scene, just a little bit there. It is a large crime scene. State and local authorities, along with federal authorities, processed that crime scene quickly. And I even had the ability to walk through that crime scene and walk through the steps the suspect took to learn more about what was needed and what resources we needed to bear to create a full picture for the FBI and leadership back in Washington. Furthermore, thankfully to state and local partners, forensic evidence has been seized and continues to be garnered. Forensic evidence has already been evaluated at FBI laboratories in Quantico and state and local authorities here. We will continue to process evidence as we see it, as we collect it, and we will continue to deliver it to Governor Cox and his team. Last night, we had a total of approximately 7,000 leads. As of this morning, thanks to your great work, we have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI, and we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out. The arrest is a testament to dedication of good law enforcement being great and partnerships in law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. There is no better relationship for law enforcement than the FBI to partner with state and local authorities, and you've seen it here in these last few days. The FBI Salt Lake field office, along with our offices in LA, Phoenix, Denver, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, our headquarters component in Quantico, all participate in the FBI. I want to express my deep gratitude to the employees of the FBI, the men and women, the evidence response team tacticians, the special operators, the agents, the support staff. You have done monumental work in historic time when the public, who had a right to demand such an expeditious solving of an investigation, the FBI answered.
Which path is right for you? If you're 18 to 25 and you're ready to make that transition to transform.
And we delivered. And I'm proud to be their leader, and I'm proud to be the director of the FBI. This is a very much an ongoing investigation, as the governor said, and we will continue to work with state and local authorities to develop the investigation, to provide them the evidence they need for their ongoing prosecutions. And we will be here to answer every call they absolutely have, as long as it takes, for as long as we need to find and apprehend whatever suspects were involved in this crime. Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Thank you, and good morning. I would just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has played a part in this investigation. As you know, it's been a vast, a complicated, and a very, very fast-paced investigation. You're looking at people standing up here who are running on, if they got an hour's sleep in the last couple of days, they're probably lucky. It has been very taxing. It has been so impressive, speaking on behalf of the local law enforcement, to see the cooperation that we've seen in this type of case. Across the state, sheriffs, chiefs, our state partners have stepped up and have come to the call on anything that we needed. Our county chiefs have been phenomenal. Our Utah County Attorney, Jeff Gray, who's standing up here with us, has been phenomenal in leading us through this investigation. I would like to thank the federal government for their resources, their assets. Our local team here, our FBI team, has been extraordinary in helping us work through this and bring this person to justice. Most of all, I would like to thank the public, and specifically, I would like to thank the public who turned to prayers and who turned to positiveness for us. I would like to thank them on behalf of the law enforcement community, because we needed those prayers. That's what we needed to get through this. We needed your support, and you gave it to us. We needed your patience, and you gave it to us. And I would like to thank you for the Kirk family, because that's what they need, is your support and your prayers, and that will get us through all of this. So thank you, everybody, for everybody that have stepped up. We've had such a phenomenal response to this. Thank you.
I also want to give a special thanks to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. Their unwavering support and their commitment to justice is shown true here. And without AG Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and the resources they brought to bear, we would not have been able to complete our mission. And I just want to say special thanks. It's an honor to be a part of the Department of Justice.
Thank you again to our incredible law enforcement team who has worked so hard. Sheriff, I got a solid 90 minutes last night, so I'm probably the most well-rested person up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I get the microphone, so I hope you'll permit me a moment just to share a few more thoughts about where we are and how we got here, and maybe a little bit of where we go from here. I don't want to get too preachy, but I think it's important that we, with eyes wide open, understand what's happening in our country today. I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country, and violence is tragic everywhere. And every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are, of who we have been, and who we could be in better times. Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Even especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again, to my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. I think we need more moral clarity right now. I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And there is one person responsible for what happened here. And that person is now in custody and will be charged soon and will be held accountable. And yet all of us have an opportunity right now to do something different. I want to thank my fellow Utahns. This bad stuff happens. For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us, that somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. And it was one of us. But I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting. There was no looting. There were no cars set on fire. There was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes, because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us. We get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me. I'll just conclude with words I share often from a friend and author, Yuval Levin, who was asked if he was optimistic about our country. And he said, I'm not optimistic. He said, I hate optimism. Like, that sounds bad. But he said, optimism is a vice. It's this idea that good things are just going to happen. And he said, in the history of the world, good things have never just happened. He says, I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. And hope is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. Hope is the idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so. I still believe in our country. And I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe that there is more good among us than evil. And I still believe that we can change the course of history. I'm hopeful because Americans can make it so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. I cannot speak to that.
How do you interpret the agreements on these?
Well, I will leave that up to you to interpret what those engravings mean. I think the clearest one that says "catch fascist," there's not. And by the way, that's like catch like a ball, catch this. That's I think that speaks for itself. Please.
on that that may have radicalized or changed the problem against such a horrific.
There's nothing more that we can share at this time. Yeah, please.
A friend on Discord about the gun. Do you anticipate any more arrests?
We do not at this time have any information that would lead to any additional arrests. Yes, but the investigation is ongoing.
How in custody of police and where he is right now?
Yes, so right now, Mr. Robinson has been booked into the Utah County Jail. You heard the president this morning report that that he was taken into custody, that his family and a friend helped to deliver him into custody of law enforcement in Washington County. For those of you that don't know where Washington County is, it is the southwesternmost part of the state of Utah. It's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive from here, where we are right now, and that's where he lived and where they turned him in. Please, go here. I can't share any more than what I've already shared. Yeah. Okay. So how we obtained the gun? The gun was found here. So I don't have much more details on that. We do know that he drove. We had his car here on campus, and then we had his car going south back to the St. George. It's actually the city of Washington in Washington County. I'm sorry. We don't have any information that would lead us to believe that. Yes, in fact, it was just released. Yes.
Did you discuss a motive?
I can't answer that right now. Yeah, thank you. Over here. I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history. Yes. The question is what kind of watershed, and that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history, or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history? Look. I mean, if you look at true political assassinations in this country of someone of this stature, this feels a lot like the late '60s, and having one so gruesomely displayed on camera in all of our hands and in all of our pockets. We are not wired as human beings biologically, historically. We have not evolved in a way that we are capable of processing those types of violent imagery. And by the way, we've seen another one with a gruesome stabbing very recently that went viral. This is not good for us. It is not good to consume. Social media is a cancer on our society right now. And I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community. That is happening, and it's happening organically right now. I had a friend in a small city in Utah who said, we're getting together. The Republicans and Democrats in my little town are getting together to have a discussion last night, just to find a way to find their better angels. So yes, this could be. I mean, again, you have to go back to JFK to have seen a video live of something like this happening. I wasn't born until 1975, but I know that things were really dark in the late '60s. Sorry to some of you. I know some of you were there, but this is our moment. Do we escalate, or do we?
The Route 66 Cruising Reunion roars back September 19th and 20th on Newfoundland Avenue in Ontario. Over 1,000 rides. Live music from George Michael.
Every one of us gets to make that choice. Two more questions right here.
Anticipate PM timeline that Director Patel gave us led to the arrest at 10 PM. Is there a direct connection between those two events?
I cannot comment if there is a direct connection or not, but all I can say is that that through some process, the family came to know that this had happened.
When you changing outfits?
Correct. Yes, yes. So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UVU. Last question here. Yes. Yeah. So I don't have any information on the mental illness part. He was not a student here at UVU. He was living and had lived for a long time with his family in Washington County, in the southernmost part of our state. Thank you, everyone, for your great work in getting this information out. I will just say, process-wise, this may be important. I know many of you aren't familiar with the process in Utah. I think it's important that you understand that basically we have 3 days for charging documents to be filed. A CI will be filed. We'll have more information then, more detailed information as those charging documents are filed in preparation for a preliminary hearing. So 3 days. So we would anticipate then that early next week those charging documents will be filed. We will obviously be working. The county attorney will be working very closely with Mr. Kirk's family as those documents and decisions are prepared and made. Thanks, everyone.
So there you have it. Get myself up there. Tyler Robinson, 22-year-old from Utah, is in custody, has been booked into jail in Utah for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He said it was a Mauser 98 30-06. Some of the casing engravings that were on said "Catch Fascist, Obey to Chow," which that one needs some further investigation. If you read this, you are gay. And there was another one I didn't catch, and don't quote me exactly on those because you're writing them down as he's saying them. But it seemed to be family members, a pastor, and then his father finally convinced him or said where he was. And that's when cops arrested him in the St. George area, which is about 3 to 4 hours south of that. If you're not familiar, if you go out Las Vegas in Nevada, it's in the very southern end of Utah. You go out of Las Vegas, about the first town you hit, maybe an hour or so out of Las Vegas when you first hit Utah, is St. George, Washington County, where he was arrested late last night. It's very interesting. Other than that, there were not a lot of other details mentioned in that press conference. Very eloquent by the Governor Cox of his interactions with Charlie Kirk and his message. We'll get into that, especially the social media part. When we come back at 5 o'clock, since there's no more breaking or important breaking news, we'll jump in if possible between 5 o'clock. But we'll have updates on this and some of the comments, especially on the social media part, that struck a chord, at least with me, on some of the comments the governor made and Charlie Kirk had made previously, and some other stuff going on. But we'll break it all down at 5 o'clock. We come on for our final show of this week on IE Newswire. So there again, as you see, Tyler Robinson, 22-year-old from Utah, is the suspect in custody, booked in jail in Utah for the assassination of Charlie Kirk.